unemployment is not everybody who's not working. It's a very specific definition, and when you hear about the unemployment rate, it doesn't capture everything. As voters, as consumers, students should really think to ask more questions. Well, the lesson starts with asking the students if they know how the Bureau of Labor Statistics calculates the unemployment rate. So I put up the objectives for today. Hopefully by the end of the hour today, you will be able to define unemployment, calculate the unemployment rate, and that is according to the way that the U.S. government calculates unemployment statistics, and identify shortcomings of using the unemployment rate to describe the country's labor market situation. So we try to generate a few ideas from the students, and so they threw out a couple things. How do you think they do calculate the unemployment rate? Willis?
Do they take the number of unemployed people and compare that to the U.S. population?
They add up all the retired people?
We use the census.
That would be a good way, maybe, but it's only every 10 years, so it might be difficult. Then I explained that it's actually a current population survey that's used, and that we're actually going to do our own surveying class. What they actually do, the Bureau of Labor Statistics does what we call a current population survey, where they actually call households and they ask people a bunch of questions, and they try to figure out what percentage of people meet the criteria for being considered unemployed each month. So we're going to actually act out our own little current population survey today. Each student gets a copy of the survey, and they also get a card that says the details of an individual. You're each going to get a card, a laminated card, that tells a little bit about your situation. Okay, it's just going to give you a little bit of facts on your situation, and you're going to get a survey form. You're going to survey yourself first, and then you're going to survey 5 classmates and try to determine for each person if they're employed, unemployed, or neither. They need to kind of interpret, is that person employed, is that person unemployed, is there something else going on? That part of the lesson is probably my favorite part because it's very interactive. The students like to get up and talk to each other.
I've been looking for a job for an entire week. So for this past week, I've been looking for a job.
So 20 hours a week isn't a full working week. So I don't think it's...
So you're still kind of working though a little bit.
I know you're working, but I thought 40 hours a week is a full week, right?
I really get it. That's what I'm trying to say.
You see them kind of sorting out, like, do you think this person is or isn't unemployed? And that kind of questioning then is what's going to help, I think, solidify their understanding later.
What is your situation?
I don't have a job, but I applied for 3 jobs. So I'm not working, but I applied for 3.
So you're currently looking for a job?
Yeah.
Make sure you calculate the unemployment rate based on the information you gathered and the best of your ability here. They're actually kind of talking through their misunderstandings and their understanding.
I've been looking for jobs for the last 6 months ago, but I'm not qualified for anything, so I don't have a job.
So then we talk about how they decided if someone was employed, how we decided if somebody was unemployed. Okay, let's talk about this a little bit. How did you decide if somebody was employed? Joey, how did you decide?
If they have like a job that they work for, something like amount of hours a week.
Okay, did it matter how many hours?
No.
Okay, so you did count part-time. Did anybody not count part-time? Or Sean, you didn't, and why not?
Well, I thought 40-hour weeks were considered employed, anything below that.
But people who are part-time are actually going to be included. Well,
How about people in jail?
oh, good question. Are people in jail employed or unemployed? And then got their estimates, and of course their estimates were all over the place for the unemployment rate, partly because they didn't know how to calculate it, but also partly because they took a very small sample size. All right, so what unemployment rates did you guys come up with? Grace, what did you get?
33%.
33%. Okay, Eric.
I got 66%.
Okay, all right, so right, just lines up perfectly. So we talk about that, and then that helps them kind of come together on, was I right, was I wrong? We can talk through some of the pieces. Do they have the right definition? Unemployed. Okay, first of all, there's 3 that kind of go together, and then there's one exception here, the other way, and this is what Lydia asked about. If you were not working and you were waiting to be called back to a job from which you'd been laid off, you actually count as unemployed. Okay, so this used to happen a lot when I lived in Wichita. People would get laid off by Boeing, the aircraft manufacturer. They would be sent layoff notices. They might be laid off for 6 to 8 weeks while orders were down. And then they would expect to get called back. But they would actually count as unemployed, even though they were pretty sure they were going to get their job back. In the meantime, they're actually counted as unemployed. Okay, good. And what is the working age? 16. Okay, good, which seems kind of weird, right? Because 17 and 18-year-olds mostly are where?
High school.
In high school, right? But they are actually considered to be of working age. You know, that's the part where you're really hoping the students learn the information, take some notes, have the definitions down. Also, you would count as employed if you did at least 15 hours of unpaid work in a family-owned enterprise. So what would be a family-owned enterprise where you might work, but you wouldn't get paid for it? Okay, she said if your family owns a store, good. And they might just say, we need you to work a few hours every day after school, but we're not actually paying you like a wage. Good. What else might a family own? Yes?
Like a farm?
Good. A lot of kids work on family farms. Yes?
Family restaurant?
Good. A family restaurant. Absolutely. Yeah. So there are people who do at least 15 hours of unpaid work, and that counts as employed too, even though they're not actually getting a paycheck. Then we talked about who's not included in the labor force. People who are young or people who are institutionalized. Good. Number 12.
You're working 40 hours a week as a high school teacher and unemployed.
Good.
You want a job but do not have one. You have not looked for a job in the past month because you looked unsuccessfully for the past year and you don't think there's one out there. I said I was unemployed, but I think now I'd be neither because I haven't looked for one.
Perfect. Yep. And that's one of the big distinctions we make is that you have to be looking. So yes, you would be neither. To calculate the unemployment rate, we take the number of unemployed and divide by the labor force, multiply by 100, and we get what? And then we could compare and see that the unemployment rate was 33%. So a few of you actually, remarkably, despite our small sample size, actually got the right number and looked at some graphs. So it's always nice, you know, when you have the data to be able to relate to a graph and actually show the students, here's what these rates actually look like, and here's what it would look like if we counted other workers. But these two areas, discouraged workers and involuntary part-time workers, they're also a concern and they're not captured in the unemployment statistics. But there are some other statistics that capture that. Blue unemployment line is the U6 rate. Okay, the red is the traditional unemployment calculation. So what do you notice?
So I noticed the gap between the U6 rate and the official rate is much larger after the recent recession.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a rate almost up to 17.5% if we really include everyone. Who's not included? Okay, young and institutionalized. Good. So people under 16 and people who are, for example, in a nursing home or a state institution. I definitely think they took away the point that unemployment is not everybody who's not working. We should have time to go over this. So go ahead and do this now, and then we'll go through these. It really helps you see how if people who are unemployed give up, why that makes the unemployment rate seem like it's really lower, right, than it actually is. This lesson was really successful with my class. I think it really helped them understand. I think students understand better when they experience. And if they experience thinking about themselves as employed or unemployed, surveying other people, I think they're going to remember for a long time how the Bureau of Labor Statistics calculates unemployment and why some people are counted, why some people are not counted, because they've actually lived it, experienced it. They didn't just take notes on it or read it in a book.